Welcome to the Poetry Podcast with A, an Amber Michelle's work production. Hello, everyone. Happy first Thursday of October. This is truly one of my favorite months. This is the month that I hope to be delivering my baby in. It's so crazy that my time is coming. I am just really excited. And I know that I've kind of started to talk more about my birth and everything that I've been learning about it, but just know I'm actually going to do a deep dive conversation on the way I'm delivering with an author who wrote a poem about home birth. So that will be coming. So I just want to let you all know I am starting to write more about it on my Substack, but yes, it's just coming up so soon. And I really want to share that experience with everyone. It's just one that's so new for me. And when new things are happening in our lives, for me, it's just a really good tactic to write about it. And now that I'm sharing more of my writings, that is just one that is really weighing on my heart, which is why I know I need to share it. It was actually quite funny. I was talking to my doula and after yoga one day, and I was telling her about how I'm going to be putting a little film together about my story of how I'm going to be delivering. And I was like, is it bad that I just want to do this experience of home birth for the story? She's like, no, I love it. She's like, that's what you got to do. Anything that will get you through. So I'm really doing it for the story, among other things. But yeah, so that was just a little beginning tangent. You know how we do our tangents. But really today on our Q&A, we are going to be talking about how to cultivate a community that you are desiring to be a part of. So the reason why this is the topic is because I have done this, I would say multiple times throughout my life. I'm kind of always switching gears. Even growing up, my father always said that I was never a master of one thing. I was just kind of that jack of all trades of I like to dip my toe in so many things at once. So I was always kind of in multiple friend groups. I never really had the one friend group. I always was kind of bouncing from sports or music to this creativity. So I always kind of spread myself really wide just because I really do believe that I have such an open mindset to so many things. So that is a question that we are going to be tackling today because I get it a lot from people and I really have put myself in so many situations. So what does that really mean? Immersing yourself into a new community. So what does this really mean? Diving into a new community or immersing yourself into one. What does that look like? How do you do it? Why do it? So going into that deeper, I would say the reason why you do it is because there is a sense of change in your life needed. So I was actually on a panel the other day, and the question that was proposed to me to tackle and answer was, when do you know it's right to pivot in your career? But for this podcast, I just want to make that more broad of when do you know it's right to pivot in your life? And my answer to this question is, first, you always just have to remain curious throughout your life, because remaining curious will always make you more educated. You won't miss opportunities. And if opportunities come and you say no, since you're staying curious all the time, you will feel confident in that gut decision. When you're always doing kind of the right thing in your life, you can really trust your gut. And I'm like, I got a lot in my gut right now. But that is the first thing you always have to do to know when it's right to pivot, is to just always stay curious, always continue learning. And then you know that moment, that when you can really trust yourself in a change. So a couple of times when I've known it was right to change, I would say when I was first starting out with my career. I started off my career in film, and when I was doing that, I was like, okay, I really don't know that many people in film, at least in my community that I was in. I was living in my hometown, and when you're in your hometown, you're just kind of surrounded by the people you've always known. So I really had to step out of my friend group to learn new things. So I went on Instagram. I found 50 people, that was my goal, 50 people that were in the film industry that I was reaching out to. And I would just ask them for coffee. Everyone was down. Most people were down. And I would just kind of talk to them, ask them questions, buy them a coffee. I would bring my camera, ask about camera stuff. I was watching a lot of YouTube things. I was just really immersing myself into a film community. I would go to local film festivals, chat with people afterwards. And one thing when I was doing this and diving into this new community in film, I would always go alone. I would never bring a friend with me because I think it's really powerful to show up to places alone when you're trying to meet new people, because if not, you're kind of always attached to someone at the hip, and that friend kind of can block you from making a new connection that might be the exact connection you need. So when I was going about learning about film, meeting new people, I started to learn more about my camera, which ended up really helping me in the long run in terms of just running a video production company with my sister. So that is just an example of how I started off, like diving into a new community, just simply Instagram. I know it's really hard to post, be vulnerable, show up on Instagram, but the one thing that is so positive about it is like it's a phone book. Instagram I look at is like a phone book because I've met so many people, and it's almost like it's a warm call when you DM someone on Instagram because they can see your page. So if you're being active and posting semi-regularly even, then they can kind of see who you are a little bit, at least your highlight. They can see your highlights and feel comfortable meeting up with you or something. It's just like a resume. So that is I just have used Instagram so much, so like the second time in my life, I would say that I was kind of changing up my group, wanting to meet new people in a new community, was when I moved from Omaha to Kansas City. And when I moved to Kansas City, I was getting into a new mindset, a new just lifestyle. So the main thing within that was I was getting sober. When I was living in Kansas City, I was getting sober. I was trying to get sober, and I didn't really have anyone around me that I knew who was sober. There might have been like a few people, but not anyone close to me, that I really just had to separate myself from just even chatting with old friends that weren't in the same headspace as me moving forward. It was just a lot easier that way, and it helped support me more. So when I was doing this and going about trying to seek out sober friends, I just didn't remain quiet about it. I would tell people that were in my life that I was sober, and slowly people started to respect that. And then they would connect me with people that were also sober. So the best example of this was my friend Anne. She was like one of my first friends in Kansas City, and she knew I was going on this journey. She was actually pretty supportive of it, even though she wasn't sober herself. She was really supportive, and she would always send me these emails about brands that were sober conscious. And she sent me this one, Sip Steady. They are a amazing brand in Kansas City. They're killing it. And I ended up getting coffee. Again, I DM'd these two co-founders of Sip Steady. We met up for coffee. I wanted them to maybe host an event or something with me, but it ended up not really working out for the event that I had. So we just stayed in touch. And now I'm like really, really great friends with one of those co-founders. And it turns out that she was also a writer. And I was trying to also be in a writing community, because one thing that really helped me with my sobriety was my ability to write out feelings and emotions and express myself. So that I mentioned that because whenever you are just being so honest about where you're at in life and not trying to meet people where they're at and just being like, this is where I am, they can come to you. And that's kind of what you have to do when you're kind of putting yourself out and trying to meet new people, is that with your old people in your life, you have to voice what you are trying to do, because people can rally around you. People can send you meetups and events to go to. And really, I didn't have, my phone's ringing, I'm sorry. I really didn't even have a big community in Kansas City. I had like that one friend, and she was the one that kind of pinpointed me to other people that I could connect with. And that's kind of really how my sobriety circle started. And also I joined a yoga studio, which kind of cultivates this healthy lifestyle. So I was joining a new gym, and I met a lot of people that weren't technically sober, but they were very sober conscious. And I started dating a man that was sober. So I just started putting people in my life that I wanted to be surrounded by. So that's like the main thing, is when you're wanting to be in a community that you envision for yourself, you have to surround yourself by those people. And so my last example of this that I want to talk on is a writing community. That's like the big overarching one that I really wanted to get myself into, was a writing community, because that was just something I really saw that was so healthy for myself. So how did I do this? Again, I just started talking to people like, I really want to be a writer and tell stories. So when I was on a film gig for the company that I was running, I was filming a writer, and I just wasn't quiet. Again, I voiced how I wanted to also be more involved in a writing community, and I knew he was throwing or organizing a writing group, but he was like, I don't know if mine is for you, but I do know of a writing group that you should really check out. And that was the Writing Workshop KC. And I was immediately interested. I started going to this writing workshop that was in Kansas City. it was only on Wednesday nights. So I tried to go quite often, but in the beginning, I just kind of was dipping my toe in. I would also go to open mic nights and just see the community, meet the community, even if I wasn't sharing or like going up on stage and reading poems. I was just kind of taking in the environment, the people, the crowd, and seeing how people operated. I was just very observant of these spaces. And then after a while, I kind of built up that confidence to make friends in these circles and continue just to make connections and grab coffee with people inside these groups and form really deep connections. And I really contribute a lot of my success to the people that have surrounded me because they really helped me build a foundation of practice, of just routines that I wouldn't know otherwise. Even giving me book recommendations, these people, it's just really changed my life. And even with like my business mentor, he recommended me to a writing mentor. The more you voice what you want, the more you think about it, the more these communities will evolve inside your life. It's like what you want to be and what you put out into the world will be your world. So you can't just like sit on the couch, watch TV, hope for these things, feel sorry for yourself that you don't know how, you don't know what to do. You just kind of have to start your research and go to events alone, go to things and show up scared. Christina Santiago, she is a perfect example of this. We had her on the podcast. And that's one thing that she said that people don't always recognize or know when she's showing up to all these writing events. She shows up scared. She shows up nervous. And let that nervousness kind of excite you for what you're doing and what you could be a part of. And once you're there and you have a sense of self, you are forming true connections. And once you're there, once you're in these spaces and you have formed deep, true connections with people, you have people in your phone, people that you can count on, people that you can call up for coffee that are inside this industry. So again, my first example, it was with film. Contacts full of film people in the industry in Omaha. That's where it started. Then it kind of transferred to Kansas City. So I have people in my contacts in the film industry. And then in the sobriety industry, not the sobriety industry, but the sobriety community, there's people that I wouldn't even be like their contacts. They're just people that are in my life on a day-to-day basis that mirror what I do for my lifestyle, really. So that one was just like a whole transformative life switch. But with the writing community, that industry, the writing industry, that I just over time that one took me longer because I was so intimidated inside the writing community because it was a really new skill for me. And this is kind of funny when you're older. So when I started the film industry, I was in my early 20s. When I got into the writing community, I was in my later 20s. And you get more timid, I think, a little bit when you are older. At least for me, that's what happened. I don't think I would do that anymore if I'm stepping into a new space, but I think it's because you kind of get bogged down by life itself and you just are more aware of the judgment or that you just get intimidated by amazing people. And Kansas City had so many good writers. I was just intimidated. So for this industry, this community of writers, I really took my time to really immerse myself. I would say honestly like a couple of years. And once I was there and I was in it, then I almost started to just kind of cultivate my own path, really hone in on the people that spoke to me a lot in terms of like a heart connection. They just like their energy spoke to me. And now I'm kind of cracking open a door for myself to do something that I don't really see in this space. So like for me, something that I'm doing is like this podcast, hosting writers and talking with them and giving everyone a platform to speak about their skills and learn more about them. So like that's something that I'm doing that's new that can really make deeper connections. And also I'm starting like a book club and just all these things. I'm diving into Substack for the first time and writing about stories that are impacting me on a day-to-day basis, like with this birth that's coming up in my life. So I am just fully stepping into this space, and it's so exciting because I have taken so much time to really watch the community and see what's going on, see how people navigate it. And now I really feel like I'm just doing it my own way. And it feels really good to just know that I'm being my authentic self inside this space. So to wrap up all these thoughts about how to cultivate a new community, how to step into a new community, into a new space, these are just like the main things I would say. Always remain curious, and that curiosity will help form your continued education, learning of new things. And once you're staying consistent with that, you're doing all these right things for yourself and for your body and voicing it, not being scared to voice it, you will know inside yourself with your intuition when it's right to step in and do something bold, like going to an event, DMing someone, and just always speaking to the people around you about what you're doing, what you want to do with your life and with your new change, and they will rally around you. And even if it's not everyone, there will be someone, and it's probably going to be the most unexpected person that really surprises you and connects you to another person, and do it back for them. Always ask, how can I help you? What are you doing? Is there anything that I can help with? And you'll just be so surprised. I'm really curious to see how these bold moves, these bold movements, these small steps forward into a change, a lifestyle, a space, a community will work for you. And if you ever have more questions on this, or if there was an example that I said today that you want more information on, please just reach out. I really love when I get questions from people. So I really hope these examples helped answer that question. And again, if there was any more questions, please reach out on those topics or any questions in general. And I will see you back here next Thursday for one of my favorite series, the book review. Thank you for tuning in to this week's episode. Leave me a review on your favorite listening channel, Spotify, Apple, or YouTube. I'd love to hear from you. Always with love, A.